So you're saying, do you think that there's a possibility that we might be wrecking the next generation because we're not doing this kind of modeling for them? The answer is yes.
So I think boys learn from modeling. I'm doing too much talking here.
No,
boys especially,
no.
my thinking would be they really look to models. They copy. So they copy a good dad or they copy a bad dad. If they're not there, they might copy the uncle or the cat thief next door. If there's no male to copy, well, they'll do what we know has happened in the inner city. We know the studies are there.
Yeah.
Inner city America, they'll join a gang.
You find somebody to follow. Yeah. Everybody's going to follow somebody. And the way that I talk about it, like the ARC, I wrote a research paper for ARC on family structure and talked a lot about you become what you behold. So whatever it is you're looking at, you're going to become like that. So if you have a family where there's a lot of fighting or a lot of control, you're watching your parents dealing with conflict in a way that's really unhealthy, your default is going to become like that in your own relationships. We can see it in children that are raised by single mothers. If you're raised by a single mother, you are much more likely to also become a single mother yourself. You're likely to create the problems that you saw as a child. If you were a child of divorce, you're 45% more likely to get divorced yourself when you grow up. So there is something about the family that we are raised in is going to be our default. That's not to say that any child is doomed to become a single mother who's raised by a single mother. That's not to say that if you are a product of divorce, that you are going to get divorced. But that is to say you're going to have additional challenges on the road ahead if you want to create another pathway, if you want to try to buck those trends. So what do? You have to behold something else. You have to watch somebody else live the way you want to live and pattern yourself after them. So my husband and I both are products of divorce, but we were both very committed to never divorcing, especially Ryan. I remember when we were dating. So my parents, my story sounds dramatic, but I don't actually feel like it is. Like I still had a relationship with my dad after the divorce. I'm still very close to my mom. There was very low conflict in both of those homes there wasn't conflict between their partners. Part of that is definitely probably some of the survival instinct as a child who understands these people have some level of control and influence over a parent that I want to stay connected to. So I'm going to kind of people please. So there probably was some of that in me, but it wasn't a high conflict situation. My husband's life was not like that. His parents had a high conflict marriage, and then they had a high conflict divorce. So again, this whole thing of like, well, isn't it better for parents to divorce so that the child's not living in a situation where it's toxic? And like, a lot of times it's just toxic and you're not together anymore. So that was his situation. He experienced so much pain from not just the divorce, but then the new manifestations of families and the conflict in those families and the instability and the complexity as their parents went on to create new family units, that when we were dating, I remember we were probably like 19 and we were just kind of Twitter-pated and in love and kind of not taking things too seriously. But I remember he like grabbed me by the shoulders and he looked at me and he said, I want to let you know that if we get married, we're never divorcing. We're never divorcing. My kids will never live through what I lived through. Do you understand? And should we keep dating? Because if you're not on board with this right now, this is over. And I was like, yeah, sure. Everything's going to be fine. We'll totally not get divorced. But then once you get married, you realize there's a very real danger that we're going to fall into the patterns that we watched as children because we beheld people who weren't able to stick it out or who created high conflict situations. So what is the solution? You have to behold something new. And thankfully, every church that we went to, there was a couple or two with healthy marriages who were really great parents, and they let us behold them. They let us kind of get into their life and watch them, and they coached us. And I really think that that's why we're at year 27 now with a pretty joyous marriage and 4 kids that we're really close to. It's because we got discipled in a whole new way of doing marriage and family.